Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Show. Today, the topic of our episode is Frontiers Beyond Colonizing New Worlds or Creating New Ones. And today, you'll be listening to two hosts of this episode. My name is Artem. I'm joined by the co-host Sergey, and we are really happy to welcome you to the brand new episode.
Hello, Artem. I'm really happy to proceed with our podcast series. It's our third episode, and I really amazed by our today's topic. I think it's quite interesting, isn't it?
Oh yeah, so many movies, so many science fiction books about the space colonization, about terraforming other planets. I'm sure we'll have plenty of topics to discuss along the way, especially with how it's built into the media right now.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree with you, especially considering not only all the heritage of sci-fi literature, sci-fi movies and computer games, but primarily modern trends. We all quite familiar with Elon Musk and his ambitions to colonize space, build a city on Mars. When is he going to build it? Do you remember?
I think it's like 8-10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I remember that he was talking about assembling a group of volunteer astronauts or space colonizers, whatever you call them right now, who are willing to go live and plant potatoes on Mars.
Yeah, exactly. Like planting potatoes on Mars is like a very famous feature in our modern world, I think, after that movie. What was its name? The Martian. Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, I remember not only the Musk's project, but also there was a company or a project, I think it called the Red Planet. And it was like 2011 or 2012. And their idea was to, again, select a group of volunteers, send them to the Mars. And the project was to build a colony, a lot of living units for so-called colonies, and to record their life on Mars and broadcast it on TV on Earth, and to create sort of reality show to entertain the public here back on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, do you remember this project actually?
I haven't heard about it actually. Yeah, no way it's happening. Like that's some kind of live version of Truman Show.
Yes. I think the creators of this project were sort of, sourcing their inspiration from it. But I'm not surprised that you are not familiar with it. It was very short-living because obviously nobody went to Mars. Their plan was to send colonists on 2020. And eventually this company they founded for this purpose went bankrupt, and the project was closed. So yeah, in fact,
at least someone got some money.
In fact, yes, humanity didn't get the colony on Mars, but I think someone got a good fortune out of it.
Especially the people who were doing accounting.
Definitely. I haven't heard of any, investigations regarding that company. It was not like FTX, crypto company which went bankrupt recently. So.
Well, they're still on trial. Like FTX is still on trial. I think there is a trial going on right now with the founder of FTX.
Exactly. That's why I'm referring to them, because that company, Red One, or what was their name? I'm not sure. They were much more successful.
Yeah. As they say, it's not a crime if you don't get caught.
Yeah, like it's fantastic. Saying really applicable in many domains of our modern life, or not even modern, maybe.
In accounting.
Okay, in accounting, it is especially applicable. Okay. I just want to hear your opinion. Should humanity go to space to live, to work, to...
Honestly, I have a very strong opinion that we shouldn't even go to space while the problems on Earth persist. Like, let's take a look around. What's going on around us? There is a global hunger. There's a global water shortages. There's so much more places to spend energy, resources to improve the lives of people right now on this planet. And why don't we do it? Only because of the resources, only because of the system in which people who can't afford something will not get something. So instead of refocusing the money that could be spent on those poor souls that have no food, that have no water, we will try to spend, I don't know, billions, maybe that's too optimistic, trillions of dollars on something that may never work. So I have a very strong opinion about this. What about you? What's your outlook on this?
Yeah, like I really appreciate your answer. And honestly, I totally agree with it. And but at the same time, I have a bit broader vision of this topic. I remember a couple of years ago, I was on a volunteering project in Croatia, and we had an event in one university in Zagreb, and there was a very nice community of people, a lot of foreigners, a lot of people with strong connections. I remember there were one guy who has a brother in in government of Norway, and there was a person who has parents. Actually, two people with parents in government of Turkey, and
so you're well connected. I guess.
Like I don't want to refer to this event to sort of highlight my personal connections. I just want to describe the event I held back then in that university. It was a fantastic event. A lot of people from many different countries. I think people from approximately 20 different countries were present there, like from Brazil to Poland, and
different backgrounds,
different backgrounds, cultures, and it was open discussion where we could talk on different topics. But the framework of that meeting was exactly the one we are talking about right now. Should we...
The space
colonization. Should we go for it? Should we dedicate resources in understanding of global intellectual community? Those resources are scarce. It's, very speculative topic whether they are scarce or not. But still,
that depends on where you're looking.
Exactly. But still, we were talking about whether we should go to space or not. And my point was basically identical to what you are saying right now. I was, in simple terms, trying to convince people that we should not go for it. We should not spend resources for space colonization due to many reasons. We will talk about them later. But what I want to say that when I look backwards to that day, and when I start to think about perspectives of humanity in space, I have a little bit different uh, attitude to it right now. And do you know why?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm really curious why, because I'm just genuinely curious how can opinion about this topic change so quickly,
Yeah,
basically.
like honestly, I don't think that it was rapid change, in my opinion. So
A couple of years. That's
two
rapid.
years has passed already. But the thing is, as usual, um, comes to our perspective. When we are using our, average limited perspective of a social media user who sees another what is the name of that company of Elon Musk, SpaceX,
SpaceX?
who
Yeah.
sees another SpaceX video on YouTube or on Instagram where this fancy new rocket delivers into space a Dragon ship, and we see all those really beautiful pictures of International Space Station. When we see updates from NASA to public about their plans to build a moon base, we have very wrong perspective on what the space colonization should look like. Honestly, it's not a very big problem at all for average person, because our perspective was shaped this way throughout decades. If you remember, and all our listeners, I'm 100% sure, know space exploration and use of space started back in the middle of 20th century, right?
Yeah, in the
In the
60s.
60s, yeah, the very first artificial satellite was sent to space in, I think, in 1957 by Soviet Union. And since then, we were moving in that direction in more or less the same framework. But what is the most important? The space colonization, in a very big and serious dimension of it, was serving primarily prestige purposes. The
I want to disagree with you on this one, to be honest.
Okay. I expect you to say that there are a lot of infrastructure elements very useful for humanity, for global economy.
Yeah, like satellites. Yeah, like satellites that provide us with the very, I don't know, internet connection, data for the cell phones, stuff like that that we're using every day. And the satellites for Google Maps, for GPS location, I don't know, maybe some other
Yes.
services of that kind, but still, it has some practical point.
Yes, but we should bear in mind that, for example, if we take GPS system, geopositioning system developed by US DoD, Department of Defense, its civil application, as well as the civil application of internet, actually, it is the complementary activity of this system. The initial purpose of GPS was deterrence, was establishing the dominance of United States armed forces in space.
I don't think that was about space. I think that was about data that they were using in military. Still, I completely agree with you on that one. A lot of technology that we are using right now is basically deferred from military industrial complex, because that's how the countries work.
Yes.
But at the very same time, that can benefit ordinary people as well. Like let's say, something connected with microprocessors. It was used for NASA, that was used for military technology, but now we are using those microprocessors in our laptops, in our PCs, in our smartphones, everywhere. So it still has some practical aspect to it.
Yes, I totally agree on that one. But at the same time, I want to highlight once again, to underline, to stress that all civil applications of technologies which were first implemented in framework of space race are additional. Primarily, all activities which were conducted in space, which were launched in space, were having primarily military purpose or purpose of promotion of national prestige. To be more precise, I want to switch to a little bit different domain. We will not talk about space infrastructure, which has real practical application like GPS network or weather forecast satellites. We will talk about space stations, because when we talk about space colonization, we want to discuss something what allows humans to permanently exist and live in space, to have all necessary facilities, all amendments necessary for life.
Basically, the infrastructure. Yeah.
Yes. It's, in some sense, we can call it this way. Those are space stations. And the space stations is very interesting domain of space technology sphere, let's say. The pioneers, of course, were two superpowers of previous centuries, Soviet Union and United States. Soviet Union sent Salyut stations, and later on it was a Mir station. From the United States side, there was a Skylab, and I'm not sure if there were some other projects, but Skylab was the most famous of all of them.
Actually, I think the most famous one that people know about is just basically the ISS right now.
Definitely. But this one, in my opinion, maybe someone may disagree with me, is very big exception in this story of developing space technology and the so-called space race, because it was maybe one of few, if not single, example of productive cooperation of humanity in space. So if Mir station, if Skylab station were sort of attempts to demonstrate the superiority, the technological edge of whether it is United States or Soviet Union. ISS is the example of how humanity can cooperate and create something big and impressive together. But unfortunately, this is exception, and I will explain why. We live in the time of a turmoil. Everyone will,
as always.
Yeah, like it's always the case. We may be having just periods of relative peace, But like, I'm not sure that we are going to have a period of stability, what Mr. Fukuyama was dreaming about in the beginning of 1990s. So in this period of turmoil, we see how humanity fragments itself once again. It returns to its approach of competition, of endless attempts to show their superiority, their prestige, their technological edge. And the example of ISS is very telling, because very soon some sources were claiming before that ISS is supposed to be decommissioned in 2024. Right now, everyone is talking that it is going to be 2030. But humanity...
At one point or another,
yes. Yeah. But the thing is that humanity is not planning to build another ISS together with joint forces. But at the same time, China, Russia, Global West, some other forces like India, they are preparing to start a new space race. And the real examples of what they are doing in this new space race are the space stations and space colonies project they develop. China already created the project of Tiangong Station, and it already orbits Earth for some years. Russia presents its own project of space station. West presents another project of space station. It may orbit, whether it is the one which will orbit Moon or another space station on the Earth orbit. And when we look at all those processes which are going on right now, in your opinion, why humanity, or if we look at this more specifically, why different countries, they don't want to cooperate in this field, but they opt for creating something separate. Like, in your opinion, basically, why those trends are here?
Oh, I think it's really simple. Like, let's get to a bit more practical level at this point. Like, for example, when was the last time when you gathered 10 people and they were all agreeing on something in its entirety?
Honestly, I don't.
Like in one room.
I don't remember if such a thing took place in my life.
Yeah. Always someone somewhere always disagrees with the majority of people or with the minority of people. Someone will always be unhappy. I think it's kind of a trait of the human nature at this point. So, and at the same time, I think it's in human nature to struggle for power, for dominance, like to show that they are more important than the others. So that's why we will not see anything of the sort of ISS in the future. But I really, really hope that we will, because otherwise it's gonna be awful and terrible. At the same time, that's one of the things that I think prevent the space colonization in its entirety. Like, if we can't get everyone to agree on something, how are we going to agree on colonizing one planet or one space body or something?
Yes.
How are we gonna assemble the party, the crew members of the ship that's gonna be colonizing? How are we going to agree on who's gonna pay for that? The first question that comes out of the shelf is that who's gonna pay?
Yes.
Which money will cover that?
Exactly. And
And at the same time, as I mentioned, we have huge problems. So in short answer, my answer would be uh, that's just human nature.
yeah.
And what do you think?
I totally agree with you on that point. And to develop the idea that we are talking about human nature, I want to come back to my previous statement about ambitions and about different attempts to show the prestige. Those things are taking place on different levels, whether it is the national prestige in sport or in military parade or on personal level when someone buys a Lamborghini to show his friends that he is a cool guy who achieved everything in life. In big on higher level, it also takes place, and unfortunately it really affects our efforts to expand the frontiers of humanity, expand the frontiers of science and technologies, because countries are doing the same things in space. I just want to come back to some figures. For example, a Mir station cost Russia 4.2 billion US dollars, and US for United States, that Skylab station costed $2.2 billion. In comparison, ISS cost of ISS was 150 billions of US dollars. So it's immense amount of money. With actually not very obvious and clear for average person outcome. Humanity spends huge amount of money, like not humanity, to be more specific, governments. They spend huge amount of money on those projects, and we don't see real impact of them on our life here on Earth. And on top of that, we see this fragmentation of human efforts in moving towards the stars. Now everyone will have its own space station. China has its own, Western countries having its own, Russia, India, and like instead of like we have a good example of International Space Station. Whether it was useful or not, it's a different topic. But we have, at least we have for now, and in future we will be able to say that we had one in the past when humanity could coordinate and do something with joint efforts. But right now we see that this attitude disappears, and right now countries are choosing option of promoting national prestige with the space colonization. And obviously, when we see such approach to space colonization, I can say that I totally agree with you. We should not do this at all. If instead of solving global problems, which we have huge amount of, we spend resources on prestige, PR, and brand of global power. Yeah, we are cool and strong. We have a space outpost.
Not something like in unity of all countries, not something like UN.
Definitely. It's not the thing humanity really needs. We have millions of people starving. We have deforestation problem. We have pollution problem. We have degradation of soil problem. A lot of them, and in such conditions, we definitely should not proceed this way. And honestly, when we talk about space colonization, we see exactly this thing, that humanity imagine space colonization exactly this way, that we will build a space station, then we will build a space outpost on Moon, then on Mars, and it will be like a race who will be first to set its flag on Mars, for example. And again, it will be a big competition who wins this prize, who is the biggest boy in the room. And definitely it's not the approach humanity should take. But I think we have alternatives to this activity, to this process.
Okay, and what would that be in your opinion?
In my opinion, the only alternative is doing everything in the right time. I think the humanity should direct its resources and efforts for solving global problems it has right now. Achieve, we have 20 goals of sustainable development created by United Nations, and they are some of them must be achieved to 2030, some of them by 2050. We should definitely concentrate on those things, and only when we achieved results on Earth, we should go for space colonization option. And we should definitely do it jointly, and we should definitely do it with a practical purpose, not for good picture in social media, not for national prestige or some other untangible outcomes. What do you think about it?
Well, as you know, there is nothing that happens without social media right now. The world is in a black hole of social media. So if it's not attracting subscribers, if it's not attracting impressions, if it's not attracting any kind of attention, then it's not worth doing, basically. At least that's how majority of the people see I think, the reality of the world right now in our current point. But at the same time, I completely agree with you. If we resolve all the issues on planet Earth, we can safely move out of the solar system. We can try to colonize everything that we see, if we see it fit, of course. If there is a practical aspect to it, like if we would gain something that's not attainable on Earth, for example. Because if I'm not mistaken, we have a lot of rare earth minerals and rare earth materials. For example, uranium is one of them. It's extremely uncommon, as it seems. So the supply of uranium, which is crucial for nuclear engines, for nuclear power plants, it's extremely important, I think, for the space stations, for the resources, for everything that we can imagine. But at the same time, I completely agree with you on another topic about the biggest boy in the room and all this stuff. In my perfect world, I would like to see the Earth colonize other planets under the United Nations flag, and not by any country flag, because that would be a cause for controversy. It would be a cause for conflict. Like, for example, if we take a look into history, we all know that history is cyclical, basically, at this point. Or, as some great thinker once said, history does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. So if we take a look at colonization of 14th, 15th century, we'll see that whenever there is a monopoly on that, whenever there are great powers at stake, those processes will get ugly. They will get violent. They will get nasty, really nasty. So if we do it, we should do it united.
Yes, like it's very good point. It's very good point on having joint efforts in, I think, not only space colonizations, but in many other aspects of modern life and modern human activities. Um, but unfortunately, we see that modern trends are opposite, and let's hope,
to say the
to say
least.
the least, yes, and let's hope that they will not go too far. But, anyways, coming back to the beginning of our today's conversation, I mentioned that some ideas, some new discoveries forced me to change my opinion on space colonization topic. I understood one simple thing, that we should not colonize space. I'm not talking about our star systems for now. Like, I'm not talking about the universe in general. I'm talking about space next to our home planet. About
Yeah, something technologically
yeah,
attainable.
something we can really achieve, something we can really be successful on. And the real reason, in my opinion, why we should start doing it on some point in history, not necessarily in this century, maybe not even in second century, in the next one, I mean, in the second century of this millennia.
Yeah, 22nd.
Yes. On some point when it really makes sense, that when every human being on Earth has enough of resources, we don't really have other problems to deal with, we can start moving into space to with only one idea in our mind, and this idea is purely philosophical. I don't even want to stick to ideas of mining resources from asteroids or other celestial bodies. Definitely, those ideas are good. They make a lot of sense because we can find rare earth minerals we need for semiconductors. We can find uranium. We can find a lot of useful resources out there. But the idea we should operate is immortality. The only way for humanity to achieve immortality is moving to space. It may sound, weird. It may sound bizarre because space is the most hostile place humanity can think of. Because the only place in the whole universe, according to our official science, the only place in the universe where we can feel comfortable and live without big problems is Earth and Earth's ecosystem. But the thing is, our Earth, Mother Earth, is not always a suitable place for us.
That's one way to put it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not gonna stay that forever.
Absolutely.
Like, especially with the solar system expansion, stuff like that.
Like, of course, solar system expansion is one thing. The evolution of our sun is another. That all physics and astrophysics, they say that in future our sun will grow bigger. It will
turn into a red giant,
and our Earth will not be habitable at all. But it will happen in very distant perspective. A lot of events which can make and which will definitely make Earth inhospitable are happening much more frequently, and they're happening regularly. And this is the way Earth, let's say, restarts its ecosystem existence. It erases the old forms and gives a room for new ones to grow and develop. And it's
Like the Ice Age, like this stuff?
exactly. And those periods, there are different opinions on this topic in official science, because we have real data we can operate with, only which stretch back only approximately 150 years back. When we talk about events which took place like thousands, tens of thousands years ago, we cannot be very, certain about those events. But even with the data we have right now, maybe they are not perfect. Science says that global extinctions are quite frequent, and even if humanity does not destroy itself with nuclear weapon or with
any other form of self-defense,
exactly, or in degradation of agriculture or in other way, it will not exist forever. Of course, forever is very philosophical concept. Immortality is very philosophical concept. But when we talk about space itself is very philosophical concept. And I don't think that we have something to do there besides philosophical intentions. So I think the space colonization is the thing to do in a very distant future, when we already build, maybe some can call it perfect utopia on Earth, and we can care about only one thing: sustainability of humanity in expanse of immortality, expanse of endless period of time. Yes, and
I think I got it, yeah. But at the same time, if we talk about immortality, that's one of the main features of humanity as a race. We are always driven by only one factor, by reproduction. Whatever we are doing it for reproduction on a biological level. So in 1400s we were expanding the countries, colonizing the world itself, because we were driven by reproduction. 100,000 years ago, our ancestors were swarming the Mediterranean coasts only because they wanted to reproduce. So I think it's not as philosophical, it's more of a biological path for the humanity and the human race, because we will want to, in any certain point in the timeline of the universe and in timeline of the Earth, we will want to stay. We will want to reproduce. We will want to expand our population to other places. So yeah, on that one, I completely agree with you. We will run into that. Maybe not in next 2 centuries, but someday, sometimes. Certainly.
It's actually a very good point. Of course, still the statements that the colonization of Americas and our European overseas colonies and other examples of human expansion, that all those expansions were driven by reproduction needs. It's a good point, but it's very controversial, because I think most of historians would say that this is more a theory than the
Certainly, it is a theory. There is a theory in psychology, evolutionary psychology. For example, it says that everything that a human being is doing is based by very simple rules and very simple instincts that are embedded in us from the birth. That's one of the theories, of course, in psychology. And let's be honest, it's not very popular because
Yes,
it's not proven itself
yes,
correct
yes.
most of the time. But at the same time, it still has a point, has a right to exist, in my opinion. And it kind of explains the fact that people are always looking for more ground to cover.
Yes, yes, yes. Of course, it makes a lot of sense, but I would say that human expansion cannot be driven only by the idea of reproduction. There must be. It's like a recipe of a good dish. Yes, you can put there, some amazing fruit, but you should definitely add some other ingredients as well to cook this dish. And the same,
Yeah, it should be
yes, the
complex.
same with drivers of human expansion. They must be complex. And when you talk about reproduction, I have really big concerns about it because, as we know right now, humanity comes into stage of demographic transition. And
Sorry, I'm not talking only about demographic reproduction, but also reproduction of resources.
okay,
It also explains the fact that people are driven to accumulate wealth, for example.
okay,
It's also biological. You want to reproduce as much as you can,
of course,
be that in your own children, or be that in your money, or be that in your resources,
of course.
or be that in the land.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I think we will definitely find drivers which will provide people with motivation to go to space, build those cylinders we discussed on our previous episode on neo cylinders, and coming to topic of immortality, sustainability, and what form it can get in future space colonization. The space habitat we discussed previously on Neo Cylinder is the best example of what we should aim for, because if we want to achieve immortality for humanity, we must build an environment where ecosystem can sustainably and successfully exist basically eternally. And nature ecosystems, the only one ecosystem we know, unfortunately or fortunately, it's philosophical topic as well, it's Earth. And this ecosystem is not sustainable. It's, of course, many people can say that because of because of our technological development, because of our impact on natural environment. But even without humans, this system is not sustainable at all. And the reason why humanity should opt for space colonization is the chance to build sustainable ecosystems out there in space. This is the only thing. This is the only place where we can do this. So that's why I want to connect space colonization with topic of immortality and with philosophical intentions, first of all. So that's why I don't think that it's matter of our lifetime that we should put our foot on Mars or on Moon or on any other celestial body. We must create the environment where humanity in 1 century or 2 or 3 won't have any other issues but its own immortality and existing eternally. This is my opinion.
Okay, then, in that case, we basically covered everything we wanted to talk about in terms of colonization. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that matter. I believe we'll get back to philosophical aspects a bit later, maybe in the next episodes, maybe by the end of this episode. But now I wanted to ask you about another thing that's been haunting all the sci-fi media all along the right with this colonization stuff. It's about terraforming of other planets, of other celestial bodies, maybe moons, maybe satellites, everything, asteroids, basically everything. So, what is terraforming in a nutshell for people who don't know about this or haven't heard about it? It's basically changing the ecosystem, changing the, let's say, the habitat of the planet, the settings of the planet, so to speak, in order to accommodate human beings on that celestial body. For example, one of the most popular theories is that one day we'll be able to terraform Mars and we'll be able to breathe Earth like oxygen in there. So, what do you think about it and how do you see it?
Yes, it's a great question, Artem, and it's a very popular topic in science fiction, let's say, domain, and we should definitely pay some attention to it and discuss it today. Well, first of all, I want to mention that, in my opinion, terraforming other worlds is not very feasible, and maybe this statement might upset certain fans of potential terraforming of Mars, of other celestial bodies, but we are trying to stay connected with realistic and scientific approaches to our future development, and we are trying to look at our perspectives realistically. So I will try to explain why, in my opinion, terraforming is not a very feasible option for our future development and our future expansion into space to other celestial bodies. First of all, I don't have anything against this idea in just theoretical standpoint. It's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense because humanity, according to official understanding of science, has developed on Earth. So it would be natural to expect that in future we will move to other bodies similar to Earth. So planets, Mars is the most popular option, is always considered as a body for terraforming. But let's analyze, step by step all aspects of terraforming. So as you mentioned, terraforming is creation of Earth-like conditions, Earth-like environment on our celestial body. But
Yep.
there are as in everything in real world, some limitations. And to start with something very simple, let's discuss how potentially we can terraform Mars. Like, are you maybe you want to share some methods and approaches which some bright minds offering humanity? Like, what should we do to transform Mars?
Oh, trust me, the ones that I heard were completely obnoxiously bad. Like, they were suggesting something of the kind, like, exploding bombs at the north and south pole of Mars to make it look like the Earth, more like with magnetic fields, more with ozone layer, something like that. So, in order to do that, those people thought that it would be a good idea to explode something. They must
Yes,
have been watching Mythbusters a lot. And
maybe,
I can
maybe.
relate to that as well, but I don't think it's a very good idea. I don't think there is an option that is realistic, first and foremost, if anything at all possible, because all I've read was just ideas that one day our bright minds will be able to change the axis of Mars so that the sun would warm it a bit less, or something like that. But still nothing substantial. And could you please share what exactly are your findings on that topic?
Yeah, like I also heard about the idea of exploding a bomb next to the, polar ice shields. There are two places where ice shields are concentrated on Mars, like on Earth. Actually, it's south and northern pole of that planet. So it possibly can melt the ice and create make the atmosphere layer more thick. So theoretically, of course, but considering the feasibility of this approach or other approaches, I would suggest to analyze what we need to first of all change in order to get Earth-like conditions on Mars. Let's start from the axis. Yeah, you mentioned that element of parameters needed to be considered. Axis on Earth is stable. It always in relation of 23% to the sun, let's say, to the sun, and that's why when Earth is orbiting the sun in each hemisphere respectively, half of year it's warmer, another half of year it's a bit colder. On equator is the same, but in each hemisphere it's the temperature change in each hemisphere
with respect to that axis,
with
right?
respect to
So
this
basically,
axis.
South America and Australia and Southern Africa is mostly affected by it, and they are warmer than, let's say, Norway or Canada.
On respective part of year, yes. So when that hemisphere is closer to sun, it's warmer in southern hemisphere. So in next 6 months, the rows are changing, and it's colder in southern hemisphere and it's warmer in northern. There is the thing which helps our planet and our ecosystem stay stable. This regularity, those cycles of changing weather and climate conditions, and it's super important for development of ecosystems, for agriculture, which is basically the foundation of human civilization. And on Mars, it's not the same. Axis of Mars is not stable. It can
so it rotates all the time, all the way.
Yeah, it's not like southern pole of Mars can become northern pole of Mars on one day, and on another they change the roles. But the angle of this axis changes like 10-15% every few months. And what is the most important? There is no system in this process. So
it's chaotic.
It's chaotic, and that's why it would be the same if one day on 10th of July, let's say the sun is on the middle of the sky, and next day on 11th of July, the sun is barely rising above the horizon, and it really changes climate conditions, the temperature. So this is the very important thing we need to fix. How it works on Earth. On Earth, we have Moon, which which works like an anchor, which stabilizes the axis of Earth. On Mars, there are no such body orbiting Mars which can stabilize its axis. There are two small satellites, Phobos and Deimos, but they are way too small to affect somehow the stability of axis of that planet. So basically, first of all, we would need to move a body proportionally heavy in Mars terms. Like we would need to count the same proportion for mass of, let's say, Martian
Earth to moon.
Yeah, like so it would make the same effect as on Mars as Moon makes to Earth. So we would have to find such a body and somehow move its orbit, set it on the orbit of Mars, so it becomes Martian Moon, and then it stabilizes the axis. It's very challenging. Like, for example, we can find the Ceres. Ceres is the biggest small planet in our solar system. It is relatively close to Mars. It's situated in the main asteroid belt. But how we move that celestial body from its orbit, set it on the Martian Moon, and make this Ceres Mars system stable, I have no idea. It's very challenging, and humanity is not able to even, plan such a thing. Next.
Yeah, that sounds like a gargantuan project.
Exactly. It's very challenging. Next, we have, previously we talked about it in our previous episode, we have solar radiation. Yes,
Yeah.
It's polarized particles. We are not rays, gamma rays is another thing, but we are talking about particles which are moving from the sun atmosphere towards in all directions, basically, and on some point they reach every celestial body orbiting the sun. Earth is protected from it by its magnetic field. It's not gravitational field, it's magnetic field. Those are two different things. Magnetic field also works because Earth has moon. It exists because Earth's core rotates more slowly than Earth. Than other inner layers of Earth. So
because of this difference in speed, they create magnetic fields that affect the whole planet.
Exactly. It creates the field which protects Earth from radiation. And that's why in polar regions of Earth, we have these polar lights. Those are particles which are caught by this field and directed and concentrated next to our polar areas. Without this field, those particles would bombard surface of our planet, and it would make development of human civilization and any complex life forms impossible, because it's like being constantly next to destroyed nuclear power plant. You are under a constant radiation impact. So on Mars, it is the case, and only by creation, artificially creating a magnetic field there, we can solve this problem. Like setting a satellite heavy enough to create the same effect of rotation of iron core of Mars and its tension with other layers of the core of other inner layers of Mars with its core. It can create it can create natural magnetic field on Mars, and Mars will also be protected from solar radiation like Earth does, like Earth is. And next thing is atmosphere. Like it is the favorite aspect of terraforming. I think every movie, every computer game which touches this topic concentrates primarily on this one. We must put some factories which generate some gases, and these gases fill the atmosphere, and it's done. Goal is achieved. We have the Earth-like atmosphere. But unfortunately, it does not work this way. The volume of atmosphere is huge. Like right now, Mars has atmosphere. And in space terms, it's pretty thick. So some asteroids cannot reach the surface. They burn when they enter this atmosphere. They burn,
like on Earth. Yeah,
like on Earth. But even though it takes place, Martian atmosphere represents only 0.9% of the atmosphere Earth has. So we need to make a Martian atmosphere 100 times denser. So we need to
basically put more elements into it in order to
put more gases and put 100 times more amount of gas into the atmosphere to make it Earth-like. And
But what exact gases are we using in that case?
This is not very difficult. This is not very difficult task, because the most necessary gas is nitrogen, and it is pretty abundant in space. You can find a lot of sources of this element on, for example, frozen moons of Saturn or Uranus. Like you can mine those basically nitrogen ice and deliver it to Mars. But it's not economically feasible, of course, because the amount of gas is insane. How Earth, according to our science, obtained its atmosphere? It happened because of volcanoes. So we are pretty unique. We live on a pretty unique place in solar system because we have this tectonic activity. Earth has dozen of or more of tectonic plates. Like the one of Eurasia, the one of North America, the one of Africa.
African.
Yes, and on the borders of those plates, there are seismically active zones where earthquakes are occurring and where our volcanoes are situated. And mountains, yes. And because of those volcanoes, which were active for, according to our science, for millions of years, a lot of gases were poured out into outside of Earth inner space, and those gases formed eventually our atmosphere. Initially, the atmosphere was consisting mainly from carbon dioxide, but after the life appeared on Earth, and plants and algae started to produce oxygen, our atmosphere has changed its elements, and now it's breathable for us. On Mars,
it's more saturated in oxygen, or in O2 basically, and that way we can use it. Yeah,
absolutely. On Mars, situation is very different. There are no tectonic plates on Mars, according to what we know right now. There is only one place, the inner matter from inner layers of Mars can be poured outside.
Mhm.
This is Mount Olympus. So it's the only one volcano on the Martian surface. Maybe there are some smaller ones, but this one is the most famous one.
I think it's bigger than any mountain on Earth, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the biggest mountain in solar system, 20 with something kilometers tall.
Yep.
But there is no such a thing like on Earth. Where there are lines of volcanoes stretching around the surface of the planet. So naturally, it's impossible to eject that much amount of gases from the inner layers of Mars into atmosphere. So what we can do, like dig into Martian surface until we reach that liquid part and try to extract some gases from it. It's also not very realistic approach. So there are a lot of challenges. Besides that, Mars is colder. I heard that we could put some mirrors in space, which would concentrate the solar rays, solar light to Martian surface to make it warmer. But basically, we can find different methods, but all of them economically don't seem economically realistic. They're not realistic from economical standpoint. And that's why I insist that humanity should choose the option of creating its own artificial ecosystem inside O'Neill cylinders. It's comparing to changing the environment of the whole planet. It's much more realistic task. We can build hundreds or thousands of such cylinders, like 20 kilometers long or 8 kilometers long, 4 kilometers wide, and put their totally controlled environment. And we can be, and it's we who decide what environment we want, and it's we who set the conditions. So we don't have to adjust to natural conditions of one or another celestial body we want to terraform. And basically, due to this fact, I think that creation of so-called Dyson swarm, the contemplation of hundreds and thousands of such cylinders around the star, around the sun, like in our case,
any star, yeah.
But we are not talking about possibility to move to another star. It's another topic, also very challenging and not realistic. So
that's what I wanted to touch on, actually, because apart from Mars, we also have Kepler's planets. So they are fairly similar to Earth in mass, in diameter, in temperature, in sometimes even in water and some byproducts of organic life. So maybe if we could find some of those planets and just slightly terraform them to make them more similar to Earth, maybe that would be a solution. Of course, there would be still some minor challenges like increased gravity or decreased gravity that would affect the human beings as a species, but still, why can't we work on those and terraform them?
Yes, Artemis, actually it's a very good point, and actually very nice that you mentioned the gravity, because while we were talking about terraforming Mars, we avoided mentioning that the gravity of Mars is approximately like 40% of what Earth has. Anyways,
yeah, I think it's lesser than Earth.
It is much smaller figure than 1G we experience here on Earth, and this is also the challenge again, which we can overcome by creating artificial habitat, and which we cannot overcome if we terraform any celestial body. Talking about those Kepler planets, of course, universe is immense. There are billions of stars in our galaxy, in Milky Way, and there are a lot of exoplanets. Maybe there is the way bigger figure of them than we currently estimate, and there are definitely some Earth-like planet. But considering the unique combination of factors which made Earth habitable, which made Earth suitable for life in general and even more for development of human civilization, it's very unlikely that even in that immense amount of exoplanet we can find the one with pretty similar conditions to the ones Earth has. But imagine that we have found one and we need to make slight changes. I have two arguments which would convince you and maybe our listeners that we should not necessarily do this if we, of course, don't have any other duties. So, first of all, building habitats requires less resources, millions times less resource than the addition of extra cubic kilometers of gas in the atmosphere of exoplanet. So it is much creation of artificial habitats saves us lots of resources. And the second thing, maybe it should be even the first thing, why not? It's the distance. Realistically, we cannot travel faster than the speed of light. And honestly, we cannot travel faster than even 10% of speed of light. So the voyage to those planets, especially considering that we will have to take a lot of resources with us.
A lot of people.
Not necessarily people, maybe it would be automated mission, but still it requires a lot of delivering a lot of equipment, and the distance between point A and point B, like how many tens of light years, hundreds of light years. It's very unreal. It would be very unrealistic plan to set such an expedition. And besides that, we don't even have really clear data on conditions on those planets, because the best space telescope we have right now, like James Webb, I think its name.
Yeah.
It's pretty new one. Still, even this one cannot measure everything we need to state firmly and confidently that yes, this planet has this amount of oxygen, this amount of carbon dioxide, water.
Yeah, that's more of a theoretical calculations.
Yes. We basically, when we state something, it's more like assumptions than real facts. So those things, they really convinced me in the past. Maybe I will convince our listeners today that the only realistic way for humanity to expand into space and to create real extraterrestrial civilization is building artificial habitats on the orbit of the sun. Of course, our sun is not immortal. That's might be your next question, but it's another topic, of course.
Yeah, we can always move those habitats, but still, we're again driving very far away from our topic of today's conversation. I know your love for those O'Neill cylinders, those Dyson swarms. it's
Sure.
it just shows, but at the same time, still with terraforming, wouldn't it be just comfortable for us as a human beings to find another planet with when we can set foot on the planet, on the ground, get boots on the ground, and get stuff going? Basically, let's say if Mars would be green, wouldn't it be um, more resources, more space for people than any amount of cylinders, which for which we would still need to dig the resources up, either
Mhm.
from Earth or from asteroids?
It's very, very good point, Artem. And actually, I have very clear answer to this one. First of all, about the uh, life conditions, you said that Mars is green and amount of space.
Yeah.
We live here on Earth, but in fact, what percentage of Earth solid surface, in your opinion, humanity occupies?
Okay, so of solid surface, it would be, I think, 55.
55. Like, it's a good estimate, but
We have a
heavily.
lot of special terrains on Earth. Let's be honest. Like we have deserts which are not livable at all, even in our conditions. Sahara, Gobi, what else? Whatever the desert you can think of. We
Of
have
course.
rainforests. We have jungles. And some jungles are not livable. Like in Asia, they might be like in Southern America, in which there is no opportunity to live if you don't want to get something like a malaria on your day one.
Surely.
But at the same time, what good soil we have is that soil is that
It's the
um
foundation of our
yeah,
civilization currently.
yeah, we are
Yeah.
utilizing it 110%.
Definitely, definitely. Basically, densely populated areas of Earth's solid surface, it's not more than 20-25% of the solid surface we have right now on Earth. So, amount of space is not the critical measurement we should think of while we're talking about colonizing our space bodies. Even if we potentially terraform certain planet, we would definitely have those areas with extreme weather conditions, with extreme climate conditions, which are not very attractive for human settlers. So, talking about creation of those habitats and talking about terraforming, I can say that when we create artificial habitat, rotating habitat, we have 100% of its space available for comfortable living of a human being. Meanwhile, on any body, any celestial body, whether it's Mars, which is not basically the most attractive place for human right now, and even if we talk about Earth, most of its surface is not hospitable for human being. So creation of artificial habitats gives us a chance to live in a room-like condition anywhere inside that cylinder. It is much more effective use of our resources than terraforming a planet. Talking about available resources, of course, it's a good topic, but anyways, we have abundant amount of resources needed, whether it's rock, which we will then process with fertilizers and turn into soil, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's water, which we can mine in comets and different icy bodies like Saturn satellites or other satellites of other planets, or which we need for air. Yeah, first of all, it's nitrogen, and we can get it easily from different frozen bodies of in solar system, like as well as water. So it was not the challenge. If we're comparing challenges of terraforming a planet and extracting exactly necessary amount of resources, of those free resources I just listed, second option for artificial habitat is more economically feasible. The only thing which may stop humans is its psychological attitude. Basically, if you live in a habitat, you live in a like a can from Coca-Cola, but size of Mount Everest, rotating in space, and the only thing which separate you from immense amount of emptiness outside and your basically ecosystem and your habitable area is how much? Few meters of concrete and soil.
And rock, yeah, and steel.
Yeah, whatever we put into flooring of those habitats. Yes,
I thought of a social media trick. If those O'Neill cylinders ever get out, the only amount of inside emptiness can only fit the outside emptiness.
Oh my god! Yes, maybe it's the point. Very
Tumblr goth girls from 2007.
Yes, very appealing topic for many.
Yep.
So terraforming is a good scientific, not even scientific. It's a good part of science fiction, but it's not very feasible from a practical standpoint. It's not very realistic from economical standpoint. So that's
it's basically a fiction.
That's why we can say that it's basically a fiction race.
Okay, that's a great point. Thank you so much for it.
Sure.
And I think we can wrap up today's episode on this great point from you. And also, let's just announce what's going to be on the next one. Today, we already touched on the topics of philosophy, like why the humankind wants to get out of the earth, why they want to achieve something like immortality, or, in my opinion, more of a godlike abilities that can create or reshape not only the planet that we're living on, but also the outside universe. And I think on the next episode, we'll discuss those in length. So thank you so much for today's discussion.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today, Artem. It was a great pleasure for me. And I'm really looking forward for our next episode when we will discuss all those philosophical ideas. And I really believe that it's going to be very profound and enriching discussion next time.
Each discussion with you is very profound and enriching, trust me, and thank you so much. It's also a great pleasure to converse with you and to discuss those topics. And, sorry, go ahead.
My pleasure. I'm always glad to be here, and I hope our listeners are sharing our feelings on this regard.
I hope so. In that case, I can say that to our viewers, to our listeners, that whenever you're hearing us, listening to us, and watching us, I hope you'll have a good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.